So Andy
Yeah,
Dunne, how are you? Great to see you.
I'm good, Sheena. Very good. Very
Excellent.
good, girl.
I was really happy to talk with you because you've just released your new album, Drew Project 7016. So you've been
I did.
for the last few months. Could you tell me a bit about it?
Yeah, well, to be honest, it's gone on a couple of years. Because like the original funded campaign, which probably started a year after the work on the album started, would have been, just I'd say a year and a half ago now, if not longer, you know. Sure, just like everybody else, really, COVID hit and that kind of put a halt to things for a while. The first lockdown, there was nothing really could be done because any of the work that I could have done on my own, which we might call it pre-production and all that, and that was already done here. So the next step was to bring it to a bigger studio and you know, get demos out to musicians and all this kind of stuff. So that was halted for a while. But as soon as we were able to meet up again, we got out to Conor O'Sullivan's studio then. There was there was a bit of work before that as well. Myself and Paul Seymour just tying up loose ends and making up arrangements and just bits and pieces like that. But sure, the whole project has been about tying up loose ends, you know.
So
the CD has gone out and there's still loose ends.
So your place there is pretty much a recording studio where you are. You've set it up more or less to record.
Here, yeah, it's as I call it, spare room studio. Yeah, initially, as I said, I've had the equipment here for a while, but when I was doing this project, I decided that I would get it acoustically treated, you know. So, in fairness to Dan Fitzgerald, he was at the end of the phone for me.
Yeah.
Explaining all the bits I had to do. So yeah, so it's got this stuff all over the place, and then I've got a couple of clouds hanging over that half of the room. Kind of like the listening area over here is not as dead. It's only a small room, like, but I was able to kind of break it into two, you know.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And were the songs that you in Drew, those songs have they been in your head for years? Are they?
See, some of them are relatively new, like the whole thing about this album was, first of all, I've put out albums before where there might be 2 or 3 of my own songs on the album. And over the years with Galleon, we've released an awful lot of albums in Germany, and there would have been maybe 1 or 2 of my own songs on those albums. But as a personal kind of achievement, I always wanted to do an album with just my own songs, because Andy Dunne is a cover artist. Andy Dunne has always been a cover artist, and that's you know, entertainer. That's what I've always been. But I've also always been a songwriter. I just never pushed it. I was too busy paying me bills, you know. Do you know what I mean? So. And that was a choice I made a long time ago. A funny story I have about that was the time that John Spillane made a similar choice inside my car, and he decided to go the other road. But sure, that's all right. You know, I think we're both all right, you know. But I remember driving up from Crosshaven. I was doing a gig in the pub, and he was in the pub next door. I gave him a lift home, and he was saying, "No, I can't do this pub thing anymore, Andy. Boy, I tell you, no, I can't do it anymore." And that was like he made up his mind. He was going to focus on what he did, and sure, look at him, you know.
Yeah.
And similar here, maybe not with the success, but certainly with the ability to say, you know, I've got 5 years left on the mortgage or something. And, you know, things haven't always been great or easy, but it's great to be able to make a living on it, you know.
Yeah, well, you developed an unreal skills as a cover artist as well, because that's something that actually struck me on the album. I was listening to it, and thanks for giving me a few sneak reviews on it previously.
Yeah.
No bother. You said something like on a post maybe I saw your influences vary in decades and genres, so your own material is extremely eclectic, and it actually struck me straight away. Like, it was a really interesting album to listen to because there's so much diversity to it, and it was also showed up your versatility. So there's elements of trad, there's you kind of go in and out of country, folk. That I thought was great, and also I could hear the influences from, like, I think maybe Johnny Cash, maybe Neil Diamond, maybe Kenny Rogers. You can tell me who influences you really.
Yeah. You see, we're in such a time now, girl, that there's nobody. I don't think there's anyone on the planet can say this particular band or this particular person influenced me most, because there's so much, you know. But yeah, definitely at a stage there, I was listening to a lot of Neil Diamond. That would have been back in the 80s.
Yeah.
But like the first car myself and Sandra got, we called it Crackling Rosie, like, you know. It was a banger. But yeah, so definitely. And country music, I'd be way more into the kind of highwaymen type stuff, what they call outlaw country, more so than the normal Nashville country, like. So yeah, definitely Johnny Cash, I suppose, but more so Chris Christopherson really would have been a bigger influence. But then, like, Billy Joel has been a massive influence on everything that I've done, including the cover gigs, because that man is so versatile. It's not even funny, And another guy that I always admired. I was never, I never went mad into him, but I really appreciated his diversity as well. Was Joe Jackson,
Oh yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
Like, he had so many different genres, so many different styles that he could turn to. Fucking amazing. I just thought that was brilliant. Because I get bored very easy, and I suppose we judge ourselves by we judge ourselves by how we see other people or whatever. And I would hate to have people thinking that I'm playing the same stuff all the time, and it gets monotonous and boring,
No, but I thought that was a massive success in the album. The fact that you had you didn't keep the form or the mood the same, so it kept my attention all the way through, genuinely.
Right.
And there was swells and there was emotion, and it was. I think it's excellent, and there's a lot of hits to me in that album.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Was the process, once you were in studio, then was it a quick process for you? Did it work out as you expected? And
the Seagull, I tell you, the people I was working with were amazing. I mean, from the very beginning, Paul's been involved in it from like. And I've worked with Paul for years and years. I'm working with Paul since 1989 or something. So we can nearly tell what each other are thinking now at this stage. But and then, of course, Conor O'Sullivan had a newly built studio. And when I heard that, I was absolutely thrilled, because I've been doing work with Conor on and off. And he knows, like, for instance, the song Evolution that's on the album, there's a tune in with that called Dr. Gilbert. And it was Conor came up with that idea about 10 years ago, I'd say, out in a session in Blair. And he tried this tune with the song, and it stayed, and it's been there ever since. So, and then you had Brendan Clancy, who I've been working with now, I suppose 6 or 7 years with the Lee sessions. Brian Morrissey, of course, that I know a long, long time as well. Chris McCarthy, the bass player, I had never really met.
Yeah.
And the reason I got Chris was, to be honest with you, well, obviously because he's brilliant, but the budget, like, I wanted somebody who could do board bass, double bass, and electric bass.
Right, yeah.
And Paul said Chris fits the bill, and sure, it worked out brilliant. And the guy's a dream to work with, fantastic. Like, and then Fionn Hennessy Hayes, then from Rowan and the Guilty Judges. Fionn done the drumming. And sure, again, truly Oliver Plunkett, I know Fionn very well, and I've always admired his drumming, Yeah.
Actually, I wonder.
I suppose to answer your question, it was an easy process in the sense, because it must be the first time ever in my life where I went into a studio and I said to people, like, recording an album for myself, and I said to people, no, I didn't give many instructions. It's just do whatever you feel is right. And some of them were maybe a little bit uncomfortable with that because there was no direction. But I think it worked out for the better, because they all just put their own bits into the songs, and sure, I was thrilled. It was like a whole new batch of brand new songs again for me,
Yeah. I don't know whether I'd like to read something to you, but it might take up too much time, so I might have to stop in the middle. But I asked some of the lads, you see, I knew that I was going to be chatting with you, and I just like to get their perspective, right? So I asked Conor what was it like, and he said the thing that stood out the most, and it shouldn't have been a surprise considering how much he played with you, is that you never took more than a take or two to do any vocal or guitar. He says you were so at ease. Again, I don't know why that stuck out, as we all know how good he is, but it was so easy to record him. He's just a pro at his job. Also, he loved how much enjoyment you were getting when the other musicians were putting down their instruments on the songs. He was really buzzing. So that's what Conor said, and I just thought it was lovely, because the relationship that you developed down through the years, and you're always, like, I saw you often on stage, between going, falling in with the sessions and then doing your own thing afterwards as well. And, you're always about town with musicians as well. So you form great relationships. But I'll read out Brian's and Paul's in a moment, because there's a lot to it, and I wasn't sure whether I would read it for you, but it's just too nice and it's precious. But I'd like to ask you, for inspiration, Have you a favorite place you go to, like like if you're ever in a rut or something is stagnant, would you listen to a certain piece of music that just blows you away and it gets the creative juices flowing, or how do you start the process of writing?
Okay, there was a time, the last couple of years, and when I say couple of years, I've probably been the last 5 or 6 years. I've had a load of health issues, so motivation was a huge thing for me. Huge. I remember ringing Paul about it, saying, "Paul, look, I got nothing done there again for the last few days. I just can't get fucking motivated. I can get, sorry for cursing. I can't get motivated." I think your audio has gone there, Sheena.
Really?
Is it? Yeah, you're all right there again. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, I suppose again, because songwriting wasn't my priority. My priority was being a really good entertainer. So I would have always probably put more preparation and more time into that. But then when I would get a lash for song, I wouldn't go anywhere just to write, or I wouldn't. It would just come. Maybe I'd have a conversation with somebody and they'd say a line, or I'd say a line. Like, "What's up with that? Make a nice song," you know. And then, of course, like this album is all about this particular album. Why it's called 7016 or Drew. First of all, why Drew is there is because I've been Andrew Dunley, I've been Andy Dunne, right? And there's two people that I've ever met who call me Drew. One is Sandra's uncle, Willie, and another guy is a local fella here, Liam. He calls me Drew as well. So I thought that'd be nice for a change. We might as well take on the third persona. You know?
Yeah.
And the project 7016 then is relative to the kind of, not that it's a concept album, no, but relative to my medical history, because my medical record number is 7016, right? All of those songs at one stage or another were written. Actually, inspiration is probably hospital, because I write a lot when I'm in hospital. Like years ago when I was on dialysis, I used to do an unmerciful amount of writing, you know, while I'd be on the machine, like, because you're there for 4 hours and shit, you may as well. Yeah. And again, you're in a strange place. So yeah, I suppose I like, there's a song on that there called Roadkill on the album. And Roadkill, to me, it's a song about going through savage depression, right? The chorus, for me, is what somebody who suffers from depression says to themselves when they're trying to get themselves out of bed. Like, this world owes you not. It's not. It sounds like it's somebody from the outside giving out to somebody, you know, get out of bed.
Yeah.
But that's not what it is. It's about somebody giving out to themselves.
Yeah.
This world owes you nothing you can't get for yourself. So get your ass out of bed and get help. I know I have numerous times told those kind of lies to myself, you know, knowing damn well I was just going to fucking turn her off again and put the blanket back over my head, you know.
Yeah.
So they are very personal, but again, the music for that song then is very jolly as well, you know. And I put a bit of a whistling thing at the end of it, just
to balance the mic and the
just to soften it, you know, if that's the word.
Yeah.
And give it a sense of madness as well, because there is plenty of madness in that song. Like, you know.
Actually, can I tell you what Paul Seymour said? Because she relates directly with that, if you don't mind. He was blown away by all the caliber of the musicians as well. He said that. He said he loved watching Sally doing her backing vocals, her instinct, her prep, soul, and professionalism. As for Andy, we've been hammering away for over 30 years, recording and playing gigs. I think the album is Andy's autobiographical, musically and personally. It captures all the influences and colours that he has absorbed over the years: traditional Irish, rock, modern, American country, etc. I think it is very reflective and emotive, and has a lot of hard-earned wisdom in the stories that he tells. Sadness, happiness, reflection, sanity, irreverence, and attitude. Roadkill, for example. It is also the most focused thing he has ever done, and he knew exactly from the get-go what he wanted to do with the album in general. And he said, if I were asked for one word to describe him, I would say colossal. Isn't it beautiful?
That's really.
I just asked him for just a comment, but everything I said was so beautiful. Like, I just, you know, lovely. I had to read it. So he's backing up exactly what you said about Roadkill. There's attitude, like, you know. Yeah. Like, would you say yourself that the album is autobiographical?
Absolutely. Like you have that song, The Lucky One.
Yeah.
And, like, I remember, again, go back to John Spillane. I saw an interview with John in the early days, now prepping for the album, I saw an interview with John, and he was talking about putting a new album together, and he was saying, "This is not going to be about nasal gaze, this one, like, you know." And next I go, shit, my whole album is going to be about nasal gazing, you know. So I was writing that song at the time, The Lucky One, and I decided to make it about someone else, make it about a woman.
Yeah, I was wondering,
just to take it away from me, you know, like, because some of the songs, yeah, you can say, yeah, you know, they could be anyone's experience, but if I was to start saying, you know, about by the time I was 40, I was running out of steam, you know. It's like, okay. Yeah, nasal gazing boy.
Actually, on the beat and that and everything, I know this might sound weird to you now, but I can actually picture Elvis playing that song.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the whole thing, the atmosphere to it and everything. It's a brilliant song. Another one is Angels. Tell me about that song. That's quite a special song.
Absolutely. Angels was the last one I wrote. And Angels, there's a kind of a funny thing to Angels, but there's also a very serious thing. A couple of years ago there, I had bladder cancer. So I had my bladder removed, right? But after the surgery, sure, I was out of my brains for about 2 days, like hallucinating and all sorts of stuff. And I still have the photographs on my phone. I was lying in the bed, and I could have swore I saw a young boy on this side dressed in white and a young girl on that side dressed in white. But if I looked like this, I could see them. But if I turned my head, they weren't there, you know?
Yeah.
So then I used to be snaky, getting my phone snaky and trying to take a selfie to see if I can get. But it's when I started coming around and I could remember, like, that's the thing about these kind of hallucinations when you're getting so many. I had painkiller patches, painkiller drips, painkiller tablets, I had everything. But you remember them, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, so that was kind of an influence for that. It was like they were like two angels. I'm not a very religious person or anything like that, but they were like two angels minding me, you know. But then when I thought about it, the whole hospital is full of angels, you know. And then you go back, you could dig even deeper and say the people in your life, and you know, all through your life, the different people who've been looking after you or looking out for you, or you know.
Yeah.
So we are in whatever context you'd like to take it. We're surrounded by angels all the time.
Yeah,
I'm not necessarily talking about the ones with the harps and the wings, but you know. So yeah, that was the last song, really. Actually, that was the second last song. The last song was that I wrote, because it took a while, was Broken Pieces.
Andy, that song is really powerful. It should be like in a movie, definitely. Don't you think?
Yeah, I don't know, girl. See again, yeah. That was the one. I have another song there called "Take This Man," which I'm after getting savage mileage out of, and I still love singing it to this day. And that to me was, that always felt like somebody else was holding the biro, you know. Somebody else was. I was just channeling this, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
And Broken Pieces was equally as hard to write. I mean, I remember explaining it to Paul, saying that I've been in counselling on and off all my life for various things, a lot. And writing this song was like 5 fucking counselling sessions in one go, like, you know. It was that powerful to write, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a brilliant song, and you know, but what I'm saying is it really, really, really was tough writing it, you know. Yeah.
But I think, in fairness, the personal aspect of it for you, obviously it goes very deep, but the way you wrote it, the music itself, it made me think of something like a scene in Zorba the Greek or something. It has such a cinematic kind of feel to it, you know. It's really, really good.
And it's very simple musically, you know. I suppose maybe that's what makes it.
Sometimes, exactly.
Yeah.
Another song, actually, can I read Brian Marcy's comment about you? He said, I know you weren't expecting this now, and I'm putting you on the spot with all your compliments, but it was a huge pleasure to play on Andy's album. I've been gigging with Andy in Cork and beyond for 15 years or more, often including Paul Seymour, Brendan Clancy, and Pat Red Sullivan. I've always got a huge kick out of playing any of Andy's original songs in the gigs, so when he asked me to be a part of the Drew project, I jumped at the chance. I get a serious buzz off an exciting studio session, and this was certainly one of those. The songs are fantastic in themselves, so my job was simply to add a little colour according to the shade that Andy wanted. His favourite moment, Brian said his favourite moment of the recording project was playing Boron and banjo on Evolution. Such a strong song and great fun to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Really
So they
good.
made it like they did. I mean,
Yeah.
I recorded that song before on a different album, and it was a real kind of I wouldn't say poppy version. No, here I was messing around with synthesizers and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
But this was raw. Like
Yeah.
this basically was put together, as I said, with Connor at the very beginning of Blarney, and then it was rehearsed over and over again at the Lee sessions with Brendan and yeah. So it was already put together. I suppose the only person who hadn't played it before would have been Brian.
Yeah. Yeah.
But sure, he knows that stuff inside out. Jesus, he's sleeping. He'd do that in his sleep, you know.
Actually, did your interest in traditional music happen after the fact of the Lee sessions? Was it then, or had you always been interested in trad?
There's always been trad in my life, really, in one way or another. Like my father was, he played a accordion or the zebra crossings, as they call it.
Yeah.
But he would have been more Galleon, I have to say.
Yeah.
But growing up, I mean, I'd been listening to, I wouldn't have been putting it on, but I would have heard in the house like a lot of Planksty, a lot of stuff like that, you know. So I always had a bit of a graph for trad, all right. But my biggest thing is that I never considered myself good enough to play guitar for it. And it was Brian rang me out of the blue. He said, look, we're putting this thing together, Lee Sessions. One of the bars in Cork is willing to take it, but they won't take just tunes. They want the singer as well. Would you be interested? I said, great. I said, but get another guitar player now to back the tunes. and he's like, would you go out? I said, no, seriously, no. I said, I'll do it now, but I can't be the only guitar player because you know, well, I mean, I done it anyway. I'm sure I was nervous, and I'd be still nervous really back in trad. But for a long time, I used to be looking at the likes of John Doyle and all these people and trying to say, is that the way I should be playing? And I remember having a chat with Tony Dunne and Brendan Clancy one night, and I was saying to them, lads, and they were saying, no, forget about it. You have your own style. You know, it's working fine. It's not the normal kind of trad playing, like, but it's working fine. So don't worry about it. You know.
Yeah.
So I felt great then.
Happy then, yeah.
But and then I allowed myself to get interested in trad then, if you know what I mean, because I kind of felt comfortable enough with it then to actually want to hear more. Like, and if you get into Brendan Clancy's car any time of the day, that's all you're going to hear anyway. So
yeah,
it's brilliant.
I was actually going to ask you about your family as well, because I know that there's your extended family, cousins, nephews, your sister, your brother, and so I was wondering, first of all, yourself and Sally's vocals are incredible. Your range, your tone, like your bass is incredible as well. It really is.
That's kind of nearly gone now, though, to be honest with you. Since it's still there, I still have a bass range, but not as powerful as it used to be when I smoked.
Yeah.
And that's the gospel truth.
Oh my God, when you think about it.
We were doing the thing with Mick Flannery there again recently, recording in Collins, and we were doing Take It on the Chin.
Yeah.
And I had to get Mick to raise the key of the song. He'd go from E minor up to F sharp minor, because I couldn't reach it.
Wow.
Like that, the vocals for that song, except Aaron's, were recorded in this room. Like Ricky, myself, Mick, they were done here years ago. Oh. But Mick says to me, "Can we come up? I think let's say it was a Tuesday. Can we come up Tuesday, Andy, and do the vocal?" I said, "Do by no bother." Next, knock at the door about 9 o'clock in the morning. 9 o'clock in the morning. I go down. There's Mick, Ricky, and Rory, a guy that sings with a band. Well, he plays with a band called 10 Past 7. And Rory, we were they're amazing. Yeah. We were all in the Chris's course at the time, you see, together.
Yeah.
So anyway, he came up and I'm going, Mick, I can't sing it this hour of the morning, but I need to get at least 2 cups of coffee and a half pack of fags into me. Like, so we did the vocals, and I said, look, I'll do mine, but I'll do it again later this evening when my voice comes up a bit. And he said, no, I have to take it away. You know, it sounds grand, Andy. It's fine. I'll go fine. And that's why the voice is so low on that recording. And the next time we did it, then was in the Opera House. And I was backstage. It was like 11 o'clock or 10:30 at night or something by the time we got out on stage to do it. So again, my voice has gone way up, like. Yeah. And I'm backstage going, I pulled, trying to get my voice down. So when I started vaping, I'm vaping about 5 or 6 years. And the first tour we done with Galleon, after I started vaping, this couple who would come to all the gigs really over there, came up to me and go, Andy, you don't smoke cigarettes anymore, no? I said, no, you know, I'm vaping now. And "Oh, we really miss your husky voice." You know, I'm like, "Fuck, would you go away?" Like, but
She wanted to do
yeah,
some-
but I do miss it. Even in the recording of this album, I remember saying to Paul, I can't remember what song it was now. Oh, The Showman, I think. And I was trying to get real kind of grit, and I couldn't. I just couldn't. It was a bit too clean for me, the voice, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, just for and against it.
So, but you grew up, all of you playing, and like, did you have family get-together, singing songs and all that?
See, again, going back, and I hate going on about it, but it's a fact. A lot of my youth, really, I was in hospital, in and out of hospital. And plus, I was the youngest of 13 children. So some of the older in the family would have been gone and all by the time I can remember being in the house.
Yeah.
But I do know there was always music in our house, and there was always sing-songs in our house. And like, every person in my family can harmonize, because if you couldn't harmonize, you'd have nothing to sing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my mother used to do a thing called the Dummies Band to keep us occupied. You know, like, I don't remember this, but it happened.
Yeah.
She'd have X amount of children, maybe 10 or something, inside the sitting room, like, and she'd say, "Right, you're playing the drums now, and you're playing the bass, and you're playing this, and you're playing the piano," and but we'd have no instruments, like, so you know, right? She'd start conducting it. Right, 1, 2, 3, and we'd have
You'd have to improvise, and
no sound, like, kept the children quiet. No sound, we had no instruments and nothing. We are, but so yeah, and lots of music from the older siblings then as well. Like, I think that's where my love of variety and my openness to so many different types of music came from, because I won't say drowning in it, but I was soaked in it, like, you know.
That's brilliant. I want to ask you, before you gig or you're going to record or anything, and you're working up to it, are you feeling a sense of nerves? Because I think you have the art of communication when you're on stage gigging. You have it down to a T. Like, you wear your heart in the sleeve, you're open, you don't hold back. Does this snap you into your groove, or is the communicating something that actually is driving you, or is it making you nervous, or where are you when you're going on stage?
I can never remember doing a gig that I haven't been nervous before. And when I say nervous, I can get seriously nervous, like, so there's always nerves. Even when I do this thing here on a Friday night and I'm in the room hearing me on, you know. Always nervous. And that's, you know, I've tried these things over the years of saying to yourself, well, nerves turn into adrenaline, and that's where you get the energy from. And it's like, no, I don't want fucking nerves. Go away and stop annoying me. Do you know? Always.
But you're funny, and you like, even I love watching the Friday nights. I work on Friday nights, so I don't see them all. But and getting introduced to Ted, you know, the dog.
Ted, yeah. Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, you're like, you're good fun, in fairness, and it was great that you kept busy actually over a lockdown in that sense, wasn't it? Because you've maintained a fan base, like, you know, as well.
Yeah, and it's grown. It's really grown as well, which is great.
Yeah.
And it's also built, I don't know if confidence the right word now, but it's given me, I suppose, a bit of confidence in my own songs, that I can maybe, when we get this thing sorted and we can get back out gigging again, maybe I can start focusing on doing gigs of my own stuff. And, you know, I mean, everyone that worked on the album, we're mad to get a band together and do a lash of gigs just to promote the album at some stage.
Well, I was going to say that, like, you'd have to have the band with you for that, wouldn't you, really, in a sense?
Yeah.
But like, do you like playing with the band as opposed to being solo? Like, is it?
I love it.
To hit off the band and that.
I love it. I absolutely. I won't say I hate playing solo, but if there have been plenty of times in my life where if I had a choice, I just stopped.
Yeah.
It's tough going. It's really tough going, and getting back to the nerves and all that again. Yeah, it's. I mean, Paul would tell you. I mean, I'll give you one example. Years ago, when I played with the Davy Arthur band, I don't know. You'd know Danny Burt, Danny the drummer.
Yeah. Drummer, from Clare. Yeah.
We had this residency up in Bad Bob's in Dublin, you know.
Yeah.
And the first time we go up there anyway, we got the dressing room, and Danny says to me, "Andy, if you want to head away and you're on, they'll know what change, you know." Because they know I used to be kind of embarrassed around people who have it. But and I went, Jesus, I had to sound Danny, you know. And I went in and I got changed, and I came back out and I said, "Danny, I really, really appreciate that." And he said, "What do you mean by it?" I said, "I know, I thought that was tough." He said, I just wanted you out of me fucking way. He said, you're making us all nervous. You're a bag of nerves. There's none of us can get ready. None of us can go to the dressing room with you because you're a bag of nerves. So yeah, it can get pretty bad. Like
Yeah. But you say it though, you know, you don't
I have
try
to
pretend.
I have to, because I'm not a very good bluffer, like in the
Yeah.
sense that if I try to bluff something away, or if I no, it'll be 10 times. It'll be 10 times worse. It'll build up my head then, you know.
Yeah.
No.
So I was wondering, when you hear music, what are you hearing first? Are you listening to the song or the piece as a whole, or do you start picking it apart with your expertise and knowledge that you have, picking apart the production aspect of it? Or what elements do you hear first? Do you hear lyrics, rhythm, bass? What are you hearing first?
Okay, well, there's kind of just two sides to that. One is it depends on what I want to listen to music for. Like for instance, my doctor, my nephrologist in hospital gives me an office lag, and he'd be saying, "You're supposed to be some kind of musician, and every time I come into the ward, you're listening to RT Gold." Do you know? Because I love RT Gold when I'm in hospital, because you don't have to listen to it. It's not complicated. And so for that reason, if I just want music in the background, I will listen to stuff from the 80s and stuff, and, you know. But then if I, like you were talking about earlier, I don't even know if it's inspiration I'd be looking for, but if I'm listening to learn, definitely lyrics and structure. And then of course, for the last few years, since I got really into it myself, I'd be listening for mix production, mix stuff. And
I was wondering, I expected you to say something like that. I mean, I was just talking about anything that could come on anywhere at any given time, not something that you select or anything. That maybe you might be in a room and somebody plays a piece or something. So like, I find like I don't hear lyrics first, but I imagined you would like your rhythm, I think, first. So I was wondering what you heard. But anyway, And do you enjoy, after speaking about Mick there earlier on, Mick Flannery, do you enjoy the collaborative aspect of music too? I'd say you do you?
I do, and I have not done enough of it, to be quite honest with you.
Because you know heads, you know everybody, and you know.
I have, and you know, again, that's just down to trusting myself, really. And this recording process taught me a lot about that. And what I mean by that is, I went into the studio and I was able to say to the lads, look, whatever you feel. I remember Fionn saying to me, do you want to give me any reference music or anything? I'm saying, no, like just whatever you feel should be played on the song. I mean, I initially asked him to put some nice brush stuff on Angels. And he came into the studio and he refused to do it. He said, no, it doesn't need it, you know, forget about it. Which is great, you know. I just thought that was fantastic. Like, So and that kind of, what would you say, in a very strange way, when I allow that to happen, and I allow other people to give input, because I'm very controlling of my own music, like.
Of course.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is, but that allows me then to just take my part of it. And own my own part, like, and let other guys do their thing. And that's a lesson I think I needed to learn to be any good at collaborating with anybody on, it's a writing basis or anything like that, you know.
Actually,
because I mean, I've been in bands, like, and I'd be up on the stage playing the bass, the drums, everything in my head, you know.
Well, you're leading me to my next question. I was going to ask you if you didn't play guitar. I think I saw a photograph of you last night on Facebook playing a banjo, an old photograph. What would you play if you didn't play the guitar? What would be your favorite instruments outside the guitar?
Truthfully, I'd love to be able to play the drums.
Really?
Yeah. I really, really would. I really would. Or else I'd love to actually get really, 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 really good at the guitar. And as I said, the old stamina and the concentration aren't what they used to be.
But you're excellent guitar.
No, but the drums. Oh God, yeah, drums. Yeah. I'd love to be able to play the drums. My father was a drummer, no, and that's not why. But
was he a drummer in a marching band or actually?
No, girl, he was in dance bands and KLE bands and all that kind of stuff. He was a professional musician. I was oh shit, I meant to take it out to show it to you. Yeah. I was union book there, you know.
Yeah.
It's still mad, like it's only a small little yellow book. There's something on the shelf there somewhere. But oh yeah, he was, and he played piano, accordion, and he played drums. No, he played other stuff as well, but that's what he was in the union as, and that's what he got employed as, you know.
Yeah, very good.
But that's not the reason I'd like to play drums. I love rhythm. I love, you know.
And did you play banjo as well, though? In that photograph, were you just messing?
No, that's the one myself and Sally, was it?
Yeah.
No, what that is that we got a record deal in Hamburg years ago, and that photograph was taken in the recording studio for an article on a thing called the Hamburg Folk magazine. And your man just went away and got a banjo because he said the guitar didn't look Irish enough, so he stuck a banjo in my hand. So no, I don't. You know, I'd knock a tune out of a tenor banjo, but I wouldn't be a banjo player.
Yeah.
And I'd get chords out of a 5-string as well, because the shapes are the same as a tuning that I use on the guitar. So, but no, I wouldn't. Jeez, I'm not even related to a banjo player.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, like, for instance, down through the years, all the gigs you did, especially, you know, the cover gigs you did on your own. Were any of your audience standing out to you as, like, maybe some lunatics that are always returning, or any fun moments, or even if not that, your days traveling with Galleon, any dangerous moments?
Yeah.
Madness?
I tell an old girl we need another 24 hours to be covering the Galleon story, because
how many? 7, is it?
How
many in the band? 7?
7, yeah.
Yeah.
There's always a Galleon story. Like every trip, there's at least one Galleon story, and it nearly always involves Declan Lynch as well.
Yeah.
So Declan, he's a gas man, like. But like, I'll give you an example, right? And this is hilarious, but at the same time, it's Declan, and I love him dearly. Like, we kind of look at when we're away, we share an apartment, and we kind of mind each other, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, he was we were flying out of Farron 4 one time and going off to Frankfurt. So you book your own tickets, blah blah. But Declan was given a job to book an extra bag to carry our CDs. So we were filling a suitcase with CDs.
Yeah.
And bringing them. That's great. So when you hear Declan going, Tim, like Tim is the daddy of the band, you know there's something wrong, right?
Yeah.
So Declan is there anyway, and he's up at the counter, and next all you hear is Tim. And he went up. Basically, what happened was, when Declan was booking in his 2 pieces of luggage, he didn't book in 2 pieces of luggage. He bought 2 Samsonite suitcases on the Ryanair website. Right? So he had to ring Port Dolores and tell her, there could be a couple of suitcases, right? Be there the next day or 2. And we had to pay it in. It was £100 a case or something, because he didn't have the check in. Anyway, I'm hardly going to tell you funny stories about myself. Yeah, Galleon is amazing. Like, the lads, I mean, you think Galleon been on the road over 40 years, and I'm still the newest fella in the band, I think. And sure, I'm 22 years there now or something.
Yeah, geez.
Gallion's a family, really. Galleon is it's something else.
It's great to have, yeah. And, like, do you mostly travel to Germany?
That's all we do.
Yeah.
That's all we do. Like, we're lucky, Joe, in fairness to Joe Carey, he lets us use the upstairs in the White Horse there for rehearsals. So we'd start rehearsing a couple of months beforehand. And sometimes then, if somebody contacts one of the lads or me or whoever, and they want to do a charity night, we'll do 1 or 2 of them before we go, to tighten up the show before we go, you know.
Yeah. And they're great in Germany, though, for buying music, aren't they? They're really appreciative.
The Germans are unreal. Like, I've been going to Germany myself since 1993, and Germans, they just, I don't know, is it their history, years of whatever allows them now, because they kind of demand to be to express, you know, they demand, and they love creativity and but they absolutely love the Irish thing. Like, what I loved about, compared to America, I love going to America too, but the major difference is the Dubliners made it big in Germany, and the Wolf Tones made it big in America. So if you're not singing Wolf Tone songs in America, you're not Irish. But at least what the Dubliners were doing opened up folk, it opened up all different things. So that's why they demand a different type of Irish music, you know. And like Galleon don't just do all Irish, we do Canadian folk, we do Scottish, we do, you know, whatever. And as I say, a lot of songs that Declan would have written and songs I would have written. Oh, Galleon, yeah, Ashley Galleon. I could go on forever, girl. It's
Yeah.
nearly coming to an end. No, we were supposed to do our final tour there. We cancelled it twice over the last year and a half. But you're not to worry. We'll have to get to do that.
There'll be partying and there'll be all kinds of amazing events, I'm sure, like in time. But actually, what is your plan? Tell me, what are you going to do now? I mean, the Island of Music are lucky to be hosting you on your profiles on our website.
I would just stop. I'm delighted, girl.
And we're selling the album as well, which is absolutely brilliant. Like, and it's flying, it's flying, Andy.
And I'm more boxes here.
Yeah, it's brilliant, because I never thought I'd actually be saying I'm running out of CDs, because people are buying less and less CDs, but you're flying. It's great. So brilliant. You're going to have it ready for download in May as well, are you?
I am, yeah. It's kind of, I like most other people really who kind of came up in the. I mean, I came up in tapes, like, you know, and so. This whole streaming and giving music away for free, kind of like what's that about?
Yeah.
But it's the way it is, and I think we can rebel against it to you know, and what's it going to do? Like, if you're not in, you can't win. I mean, this gigging or recording for exposure was always frowned upon, and it seems to be the norm now.
Yeah.
So my plan was, do the CDs for a couple of months. And because to be quite honest, Sheena, like Sandra's car, I don't have a car, but we share Sandra's one. It doesn't even have a CD player in it. Like, I got 500 CDs in the door there 2 weeks ago, and I haven't even listened to one on a CD player yet.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? But I keep having to put them in the computer and listen to them through the speakers.
Yeah.
But so, you know, maybe they are becoming obsolete. But again, for the likes of the trips to Germany and that kind of work, they still buy CDs.
Absolutely.
And I read an article recently about CDs, and they were saying that the people who buy CDs are music collectors, not music consumers. You know.
Yeah.
That they want the physical product in their hand. Like they're not people who pay their tenner for Spotify and have the same thing on for a month. You know.
Yeah, I kind of refused from the outset to even have a Spotify account, so I don't have a Spotify account.
Yeah.
And lots of artists send me their music and say, follow the link in the Spotify. And I go, I'm not on Spotify, and they're kind of going, you're not on Spotify. But it just I could never accept that music, everybody's getting everything for free. And
I know.
It reduces people's expectations of things, and we're being spoiled, you know, we are. And so
absolutely.
It's hard to get them back onto buying and so on. It
probably won't happen. Probably won't happen in our lifetime, but I'm waiting for that bubble to burst. Like, and what I mean, that bubble, that's not just about Spotify. That's about how affordable it's become to do home recording.
Yeah.
How you can learn to master a song on YouTube. I mean, that's a lot of shite. Like, which is why the whole thing is flooded. No, there's a lot of great music out there. But there's a merciful amount of shite as well. And you know, I'm dropping my new song there tomorrow afternoon. I wrote it there a while ago.
Yeah.
Do you know, I know I sound like a cranky old man now, like, but
no, but like that's.
I think it'll have to. That bubble will have to burst. People are going to have to realize that there's a reason why there's sound engineers. There's a reason why there's you know, studios. There's a reason. You know, Jesus, man. You know, I put a hell of a lot of time. I mean, I'm working with that kind of stuff 15 years now, if not longer. So and I say I good people around me to advise me over the years. Johnny Campbell, you know. So I'm not too bad at it myself, but still. I just felt it right to go to Connors as well, you know.
But actually, I was going to ask you about videos. Are you going to produce your own? Like, are you already working up to making video for any of the songs, or have you thought about it?
Again, it's all down to budget, girl. Like I was trying stuff here in this place. I have one of these Canon DSLR cameras, right? And I was saying, the camera on the iPad isn't too bad, and the camera on the phone isn't too bad. So we set all them up, and that we might be able to do something like that. And who knows? Maybe I will. I just think we'd say for the likes of Broken Pieces now, or something like that. I think if I was going to do it, it deserves something decent, you know.
Absolutely.
And that would just be a matter of budget then, which is something I don't have at the moment. I don't think anybody has.
Yeah, well, you'll be building that up with all the sales of the albums now and the downloads. But anyway, listen, we could go on forever, you and I. It's fantastic.
Absolutely,
you after all this time. I mean, it's
I tap on the screen there to wake the people up after falling asleep.
Yeah, we're just chatting away. But so what is the plan after you've launched? Like you haven't had an official launch. You're probably, I don't know when you will get to, but what would you think your next project will be? Project 7017.
Don't be a 7017 anyway. The next project, I honestly, I've always wanted to do is an album of kind of the covers that I do at gigs that I really like doing. Like there's lots of covers you do, and Jesus, if you never sang them again, it wouldn't bother you. Like Galway Girl, no, like a million times in my life, and stuff like that. But there are covers as well. Like I do a version of Rocky Took a Lover from Bell X1 with looping and stuff involved in that. And I'd love to get that down, you know, and because they are like, that's another thing I learned over the years. I remember when I started working at Henry Africa's years ago before it became the Lobby, and everybody was doing the same Bob Dylan songs. Everyone was doing the same Neil Young stuff. They're all doing. So what I started doing and was looking at B-sides or looking at album tracks and learning the album tracks, you know. And I've always kind of had that then. You know, if Bell X1 bring out The Great Defector, I'm going to learn Rocky Took a Lover, you know.
So, like, will you approach them from completely your own style? Or are you trying to emulate them? I mean, because I remember hearing Spansel Hill, the reggae Spansel Hill from you.
Oh, well, I robbed that now.
That was brilliant.
I robbed that. That was John Kenny's. I robbed that off John.
Okay. And then, you know, there's another song you did too. Serial Killers. Is your song?
That's mine, yeah.
Yeah, and it's got such a samba feel to that, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
I tell you the gospel truth now. Sandra, I needed a car. This is a few years ago now, a good while ago. Sandra was working in town, and I needed a car that day, so I needed to drop Sandra to work. So I was dropping her in about 8:15, and I hadn't seen 8:15 in the morning for years, like. So the way people were driving and the way they were, Jesus, man, they were, it says it in the song, like the early morning, living dead time, you know, they were like fucking zombies, like.
Yeah.
But by the time I got into town, dropped Sandra off and got back home, I had a verse and the chorus written in my head. And I spent the whole day, I ended up not needing the car because I just stayed in here for the whole day. And wrote and demoed the song that day then. But it's just about how spaced out people are in the morning. I've seen people spaced out at 3 in the morning, but that'd be for completely different reasons. Like, but Christ Almighty, and you know the lights are green. Our lights are green, but traffic stops, and I just couldn't. I'd go to Sandra, how do you stick this every morning? Jesus, man, I'd go mad. So yeah, that's what that song is about. And I just there's a piece of music at the start of it called Dawn, that I kind of took a sample of and put it in da 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 da. And where that idea came from is that an awful lot of people that I do believe listen to classical music in their cars while they're driving to relaxing. So I just thought that'd be nice for the start, and then fuck it up with a big mad song about wake up, would you, for Jesus' sake.
Very good. And actually, when I'm thinking about you now playing the covers, when you're up on stage and everybody's asking you to play a song or ask for requests, does that annoy you, or are you cool with it? You have to be, I suppose, but like.
Oh, you have to be cool with it. But when I really started getting annoyed with it was when they didn't ask you to play a song at all. They ask you to put one on.
Oh, Jesus.
That's very common, you know.
Yeah.
Very, very common. Yeah, with the younger generations.
Put on a song.
Andy will put on Galway Girl, or put on such a thing. And I'm like, put on. Oh my God. But she was singing anyway, like.
Yeah. But can people surprise you with something like you pretty much know every song at this stage? I'd say.
I do not. I don't. No, there was a time. I mean, I think the last new song that I learned is Rocky Took a Lover, and before that it was and I've forgotten it again. It was Jigsaw from, obviously, man, that Irish guy. Anyway, No, and it's something I never did. I never stayed with the times. I never followed it, you know. But I always managed to have a kind of group of songs that seemed kind of timeless, like Spancel Hill.
Yeah.
So they kind of always work, really,
Which
you
is the way to do it, I suppose, really, yeah.
know.
Anyway, listen.
Well, if you're a lazy fecker like me, it is, anyway, yeah.
Anyway, listen, it was brilliant to talk to you. Thanks a million, Andy. And
Trina, thanks, girl. And thanks for your help with the album, fair play.
no problem, no bother at all. It's
No,
brilliant. And there'll be
brilliant.
lots going on about it, I'm sure. And we'll hear from you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You were asking me there about the plan. I have no plan. The plan, as I say, is if there is a plan, it's to maybe try to do a couple of more, give myself a bit more confidence, a bit more exposure. I love that word.
Yeah.
With my own songs, get me used to being in a room singing my own songs to people.
Yeah.
And who knows, you know,
Yeah,
like,
it'd be lovely to go to an original gig of yours, actually. I'd love that.
you know, maybe twice a year do something in Collins, or twice a year do something on the White Horse, or just those kind of things. It's not something that I ever would have any ideas about taking this on as a full-time thing and trying to make a living out of it, because it's, you know, I'm just fucking long in the tooth now for that. But it would be something I'd enjoy doing a couple of times a year, right?
Yeah. Well, the main thing is that you've done it, and it's a great achievement. So you should take a break, I think, and just relax, chill out.
Get out of the way, leave the young fellas at it.
Do you want to?
I nearly forgot to mention, and I didn't. She's on the back of my head all the time. My sister Sally, she's involved in this as well. She's been involved in my music since the day I began.
Yeah.
I talked about playing in Henry Africa's. It was actually Sally got the gig in Henry Africa's, and she needed a guitar player. So yeah, it's not that I kind of wasn't thinking about her, but she's been there all the time.
Brilliant.
In some level or another, you know. Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, actually, because I was going to ask you, did you want to say anything to anyone? So you covered.
Yeah. Well, and of course, Sandra, like, that support, it's a home support, but it's very much it's not easy being married to a spacer who writes songs and stays out half the night fucking entertaining people, you know.
Yeah. She's cool out, though, in fairness, you know.
Huh?
She's cool out.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
She has to be. She has to be out. Jesus, poor thing.
Yeah, brilliant. Anyway, I suppose I'll leave it at that. And as I said, we could talk all night, but thanks a million, Andy.
Sheena, thanks, Kevin.
Cheers.
All right.